Welcome into For FF's Sake. Evan Harris here, and I got another guest for us. And without further ado, let's do the intro. Coming to you today, we have Axton Harding, a writer for IDP Guys, focusing on the offensive side, also a member of the Red Division Creator League, a guy that I'm hoping to beat this season, or at least finish in the top 4 with, Mr. Axton Harding. Welcome to the show.
Hey, pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me, man. I've been excited about this all week.
I think I'm going to try to do the radio intro with every guest now. It's just going to try to make that a staple.
That's right.
So you have this is your first time being on the show, but it's not the first time your name was mentioned, because I said you have an awesome name, Axton. I think that's pretty unique. So I have not told you this side of it yet. So the reason I keep telling you have an awesome name, because I've told you in chat now, and I actually mentioned on a show, is my wife is actually expecting, and Axton was the name we had come up with. So
oh, really? Wow.
I was like, I'd never seen an Axton before. And then you came along. I was like, well, all right. Well, now I know too.
That's wild. Hey, that's pretty cool. I like the name, obviously.
Not named after Axton Harding, but we are going to have an Axton Paul Harris.
That's pretty cool. No, it's good how it worked out.
Come in late November, early December, and number 3 on the way. So
cool. I got my first coming in end of September myself. So
awesome. First, you said first of when?
End of September, towards the end.
Okay,
that's
so
24th.
My first son was born on the 26th of September. So we may end up having something else in common, just depending on how it goes. Hope everything goes well. So congratulations on that.
Thanks to you as well.
We're gonna talk some rookies.
Let's do it.
And we're gonna talk a little off the cuff. So for the listening audience, we've tried to put this show together 2 or 3 times. We've had to change the subject once or twice. And my name is Evan, and I'm a procrastinator. And really, I just have too much going on, so I don't have a show sheet. So it's my fault if I sound like an idiot today, which Ian would say it's my fault all the time when I sound like an idiot. I think that's his mantra. Ian, that other guy. Yeah, I know. So we're going to talk about rookies. And Axton, I'm going to let you kick us off. Who's a guy in the first round that you like? It can be top of the first round. It can be end of the first round. Who's a guy that you either like or you find intriguing? And we can just kick this thing off talking about.
I personally I did an article with the IDP Guys early on, kind of over the combine results and who, the standouts and whatnot. And I've been picking more towards the end of the first round in my own rookie drafts. I've kind of been liking Christian Watson. I know a lot of people have been kind of negative and don't think that he'll pull through, but personally, when you have a former MVP, 2-time MVP, throwing you the ball and you're arguably one of the top options out there at wide receiver, I think volume just kind of speaks for itself. People want to argue about drops and things like that coming from OTAs, but OTAs are OTAs. They really don't.
Jamar Chase couldn't catch last year either, I heard.
Absolutely. things happen, and but he's got plenty of time to get used to Aaron Rodgers and catching those professional passes. And he looked very good at the combine. He performed well. He's very tall. He's got wide range. So even for a very, very accurate quarterback, he's got so much room to play with throwing the ball to him.
So the interesting thing for me about Christian Watson was I'm a film guy, right? So when I'm watching the film, the way that he was used at North Dakota State, the way he was used, he wasn't just a deep threat or a 50-50 guy. They used him behind the line of scrimmage. They handed him the ball off. They threw quick screens to him, the slant game. I mean, there were so many things. It was just get the ball in his hands. How can we do that? So he's going to be well-versed in that. He is a excellent. The best thing about his game, and I know nobody in the fantasy community cares about this, is his blocking. The man is, it's like having an extra tight end out there in terms of how he can block and the physicality he has.
Absolutely.
I have weird feelings about Christian Watson, and I'll explain. I was way early on the Christian Watson train. I am old enough to remember when I would pull up a Dynasty Nerds mock and he was going in the 5th round, or he was going out undrafted, pre-combine, obviously, probably before Axton's article that got everybody on the Christian Watson bus over here. But no, I remember thinking I can get this guy middle of the second round in the third and thinking it was a steal and being super excited about it. And then the trajectory hit and everybody else saw what I saw and they saw the 40 time and the size and he dominated the Senior Bowl, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then to add insult to my ego injury here, he went to Green Bay. So it just like everything that could go right for Christian Watson in the pre-draft process was dead on the money.
Right. Yep.
So I caught myself in a predicament because in some sense I thought, all right, this guy, there's absolutely an avenue for him to finish or be one of the top 4 receivers in this draft. I absolutely see it. He could have one of the best rookie years of any rookie in this draft. But I don't like the landing spot. And personally, I know he's with an MVP, but we've seen over the years, I mean, everybody really liked Amari Rodgers last year. He landed with an MVP quarterback and he was going to have Devontae Adams to take attention away. And then what happened? He had an MVP quarterback that doesn't like throwing to rookies, a lot like Tom Brady, don't like throwing to rookies. So that's a concern. Kind of like you mentioned, there's not many other options there. So
that's primarily my, you know what I'm saying? Like, well, as far as talent, I would have arguably said like you know, maybe middle of the second round kind of talent, but the way the rookie drafts are going now, if you want him, you got to grab him at the end of the first round or somebody else. Well, I thought in one of mine, he went 1-3. Somebody had the third pick and had, you know, they were high on him, wanted to grab him, knew he wasn't going to be there. So, you know,
it's only dumb if it don't work out, right? It's only dumb if it don't work out. I remember a few years ago, a buddy of mine drafted Antonio Gibson with the first pick of the second round. And at that point in that draft, everybody was like, what are you doing? Because Antonio Gibson at that point was very underrated, but hey, he's been a borderline wide receiver run the last 2 seasons. It's worked out pretty well for him for that need. Here's my question with Christian Watson. I see the upside. It will not shock me at all if he ends up being in the top 3 receivers out of this rookie class. But for this season, he is a guy that needs polish. I think we can admit that. Is Romeo Doubs more set up for success this year than Christian Watson?
I think Christian Watson would have, like you were saying earlier, would have benefited better from maybe playing like a wide receiver 2 and kind of learning from an elite veteran on a team elsewhere. But that's kind of why I like him where he's at, because he has potential.
Oh, he's getting thrown in the fire.
Right. But exactly. He's just, you know, he's got all the opportunity in the world. So it's all mad at him. But at the same time, a guy like Romeo Doubs is really impressing at the OTAs, and coaches are, you know, if you impress the coaches early on, you're really getting that leg up. And if he's up there head to head with Christian Watson, even being picked 2 rounds later, then like I say, the wide receiver room's open. Aaron Lazard is arguably the top option, but he's not one that's really cemented himself as the team's top receiver or even just a consistent player.
Specifically the wide receiver position, there's 4 guys there that could lead that team in targets, and it would not shock me in the least. And that's the intriguing part about it. So one last thing on Christian Watson, don't be afraid of the drops, ladies and gentlemen, in rookie mini camp and these OTAs. Don't worry about it, because his quarterback is dating a witch, and I'm sure she can hocus pocus something up and he'll forget all about them drops. So we'll be ready. Sorry, I had to plug that one in there.
Come week 1, when he's getting at least 5, 6, 7 targets in his first game as a rookie, you're gonna feel a little bit better about it. You know, it's up to him what he does with those targets, but you know, it's gonna be there.
All right, so let's switch positions a little bit. And I promised myself I would not talk about Rachaad White because I've been opining over him in recent episodes. We just talked about it with Josh Larkey as well. I'm the number 1 Rachaad White fan site on Twitter, I think. But
I saw you were getting into it earlier.
Hey, I'm a big fan. But we're not going to talk about Rachaad White. We're going to talk about another guy that I actually got asked about today, Kenneth Walker. So Kenneth Walker, elite speed score, right? 4.3940. Speed score with his size was just off the charts. Had the one dominant year in college after transferring from Wake Forest, going to Michigan State. Not a pass catcher, and lands in a situation that I think people are arguing against each other because they're both right. And here's what I mean. He lands on a run-heavy team. You would think as a running back, that's a good thing. We like that. We want our running backs to get a lot of carries. On the backside of that, he lands with a team that has a running back that they did re-sign, albeit 1 year, but they re-signed Rashad Penny, who was a former first-round pick. And I've mentioned this before on the pod. Axon, I don't know about you, but Pete Carroll strikes me as a guy that wants to be the guy in the room that's right. He knows more than everybody. I mean, look at the goal line play, right, in the Super Bowl a few years ago. He wants to be that guy. I think that's part of the thing that happened between him and Russell Wilson.
He's going to be the told you guy.
Yeah. And I think he wants to be like, I told you about Rashad Penny. I just do that. And I don't know what it is about the athletic trainer in Seattle, but their running backs get hurt and they stay hurt for some reason. I mean, we're talking about a team that made DJ Dallas a thing down the stretch a few years ago. Travis Homer was starting in games for people a few years ago. So for me, Kenneth Walker was a player when I watched him. He's so fun to watch. His contact balance reminds you of watching, and I'm not saying he is this guy, but he reminds you of watching Javonte Williams. Just his contact balance, low to the ground. My knock on him that I remember when I watch film is I feel like he waits too long to really hit the hole. And I think in the NFL, that's going to be really tough for him. Good news is he has that speed. And I'm just not a big guy on 1 year productions. If you're a 1 year production and I have to draft you at the 102, what's the latest you've seen Kenneth Walker go? I think the latest I've seen is like 104, 105.
Yeah, that's probably about right. He's definitely going top 5 in about every draft I've been in.
So for me, that's a guy I'm fading. But the interesting thing that I caught myself today as I was talking to one of my league mates who was asking me about Kenneth Walker was this. I think all the rookie hype has faded on him quicker than any other rookie in the first round of the draft. And he's starting to become a value in redraft. It's the darndest thing. If you're a top 2 rookie running back pick, most of the time you go in the first 5 rounds of redraft drafts, and he's not. He's
Breece Hall's about the only one going before round, like you said, round 5.
Yeah. And there's what's the saying for like the last 5 or 6 years? There's always a rookie running back that finishes in the top 10, top 5 most of the time. Najee was that guy last year. Breece Hall's probably that guy if there is one this year.
Right.
Unless Rachaad White had that workload. Sorry, dang it. Not Rachaad White. My bad. Anyways, Kenneth Walker, though, tell me, it's an interesting situation nonetheless. What are your thoughts on Walker?
I think I don't know. I've been reading a lot of things on Twitter about it, that the reason he's not a pass catcher is not that he can't catch passes. It's that it just didn't fit the offensive scheme when he was in college. But from what I understood, I read a lot of people throwing high school stats out where he had very efficient high school receiving stats. I couldn't tell you off the top of my head exactly what it is, but I thought that was really interesting that maybe he could also play it, that maybe the Seattle Seahawks, like you were saying, Pete Carroll being that I told you so guy or something, maybe he comes in and takes a lot of the passing work or something that nobody ever even saw coming in a run-heavy Seattle offense. But with the QB situation, wouldn't it make sense to have more opportunities for dump-offs and things like that to bail your quarterbacks out, especially when you have no idea who's going to be your starting quarterback week 1?
You know, my only thing with that is this isn't a guy that was at one college and one scheme, right? He was at 2 different colleges, 2 different schemes. He did have 13 touchdowns the year before the transfer, which is interesting. Only like 579 yards. Super uber efficient guy. Averaged, I think, 5.8 or somewhere in that range for his career. I don't have the stats put up. But again, it's hard for me to imagine that 2 college football staffs said, no, this guy can't really, he's not a threat out of the backfield catching. He had 6 total catches in 2 years. I think I remember looking at it. It was like 3 catches and 3 catches his first 2 years in college and then 13 last year. Maybe he can catch. Derrick Henry tells everybody that he can catch, and he doesn't know why they don't just throw him the ball. So maybe it's because he runs through people's faces. I don't know.
Right.
The last thing on Walker is his path, and that's what we look at as a range of outcomes, right? So imagine with me, if you will, for Kenneth Walker to be an RB1 or top 15 running back, he's going to have elite usage because of his skill set, right? He's going to, if he's not catching the ball, I don't think that offense is going to be in the red zone a ton. He's going to have to get elite usage. He's going to have to get not Derrick Henry level usage. I think there's only one guy so far that's been built to handle that type of usage, but he's going to have to. I don't think he can succeed with a Nick Chubb usage.
No, he's not going to be able to succeed with splitting carries with Penny, especially if Penny's competing and really, carrying off of his finish last year. It's really going to be tough to rely on either one of them, to be honest. But with the way that their draft capital is in startups or even redraft, if it works out great and they do end up forming some sort of tandem, the way their ADP falls, you can probably snag them both if you really want to go there. Now that's a big risk, but
let's move on to a guy that at the end of last year, at the end of 2020, at the end of 2020, when we were eyeing these 2022 picks, he was a guy that was consensus top 3. And now you can get him at either the end of the first round or the start of the second. And it's a guy who goes to a team that develops receivers. I'm just going to keep saying things about him until I name him. So everybody's like, huh, what, when? That's how the guys on TikTok do it, I think. It's like, can you imagine?
Draw him in.
Yeah. He got drafted to a team that does really well with receivers. He actually got drafted by a player who plays the same position as him. And it was Claypool who announced the pick of George Pickens. George Pickens is the guy we're going to talk about. The talent is there. He had the injury. He failed. He's just an absolute beast on high pointing and tracking the football. When you watch the film, that's what pops out. He's had apparently some off the field stuff, not off the field concerns like getting in trouble. Just there was reports right during the draft process that he didn't interview well, and he had the incident in a game where he stepped on a player or spit at a player. I can't remember what it was. There were some other things around other than just the injury that made him slide. But man, the Steelers have a really good track record of drafting receivers.
Oh my gosh, they've killed their wide receiver picks in the past with Deontay, Claypool, Juju. I mean, they've all had at least one solid season. And I think Pickens might be more of one that just kind of shines probably next year and after. At most. Anyways, that's not to say there's no potential for him to really step up this year, but I think the way it's kind of shaping out whenever Claypool and people like that, like those guys, their contracts are up and maybe they're moving on, or I think that's kind of what they're anticipating and really adding depth to that wide receiving core just in case, you know. So, and they, like you said, great track record. They've got a very talented wide receiving core.
One interesting theory I've heard about the Steelers for this year, because everybody's like panic selling Claypool right now, and Deontay Johnson's on the last year of his deal. But something else I did hear was, they lost James Washington, and then they lost, I can't think of his name, the special teams guy who would come in, Ray McLeod. They didn't re-sign either of those guys. And the theory was, what if they were just drafting to backfill those positions and they weren't necessarily, if it turns out to be something great, but they weren't drafting to replace their top 2 guys. And I think that is a possible thing. They also lost Juju, right?
Mm-hmm.
This offense in the past has supported 3 receivers when healthy. So it doesn't mean it can't again. Calvin Austin, if you look at it, he would fit perfectly in their Ray McLeod role for special teams, a gadgety guy.
He did pretty well at the combine as well.
Really well
pretty good stats.
He's just tiny. kind of smaller guy. As I say that, sitting in my chair, sub 6 foot. I would be tiny as a receiver too. I don't know. I'm built like Velus Jones, just not athletic, right? I'm like 6 foot 200. That's where I'm at. I am older than Velus Jones though, which is surprising. He's like a senior rookie, is what I say. Back to Pickens. No, I think it's interesting. He could end up being the steal of rookie drafts, in my opinion. If the talent pans out and he connects with Pickett early on, which Pickett is another kind of weird one for me. I think Trubisky has a shot to win that role. But Pickens.
Honestly, I think Trubisky's, I don't know. I feel like he's probably the favorite right now. Generally, just because of his veteran experience. And, that's not to say Pickett couldn't just wow everybody and hop right in, but I feel like week 1 is probably going to be Mitch.
Yeah.
And that being said, Mitch has never really been an awful quarterback in the league. He's never really been with a great team and been able to play. But with some great wide receivers like this, I don't see why Pickens really couldn't even hop above Claypool for the wide receiver 2 if Claypool slips and he does well.
Great quick segue to Pickett, right? The first quarterback off the board in most rookie drafts. He was not the first rookie quarterback off the board in a draft I did. Malik Willis was, but we'll move on to that later. I think you start Mitch because if Mitch comes out and loses the job as he's starting, no harm, no foul. When the rookie struggles, they're not going to say, put in Mitch, because they've already seen him struggle. But if you do it the other way around, you could have some issue there. So tiny hands Pickett, baby hands Pickett, whatever you want to call them. There's so many memes. They're so glorious. So glorious. The picture that they released the other day that's not photoshopped, which is epic, of him and his gloves holding the football, and he's got like the massive looks like thing from Spaceballs helmet.
Oh yeah, and he's got these tiny T-Rex hands.
It looks like those TikToks where they have like the baby hands.
Yep.
What do you think his outlook is? So we're in the Creator League together, and I'll use this as an example. Pickett, in that league, you want to finish, and now it's going to be the top 4 to advance into like the next stage up league and play with the winners, if you will. And he fell a ways from ADP because that kind of told me expectations are not very high for Pickett this year.
No, absolutely not. Not this year. If you're trying, like you said, and trying to move up and win now, the uncertainty is just not the way to go right now. But the chance that you don't land in the top 4 of your league, grabbing him would be good. Say if you went, I think you grabbed a couple of older QBs. For some reason, if it didn't work out this year, you got a fresh new QB that's probably going to step up and really start making noise next year at least. But that's not to say. I think you're going to be a solid contender. You went all the way in on your compete now.
I don't look good on the dynasty ranking sites. Let's just say that. But if you plug me into a redraft league, I'm looking mighty fine. There, man.
Yeah, that's absolutely right.
I think I have the second highest projection for week 1. Now, as long as my team doesn't submit to the Senior Citizen Center by week 5, I think I got a shot. So we'll see. Well, who knows? It's all a crapshoot, but I'm feeling decent about it right now.
You're looking tough, man.
So one other quarterback we'll talk about real quick. I am a Titans fan. I've heard this argument posed, and I like to ask it to people. So here's the question. All right, we're going to talk about Malik Willis for a little bit. Let's just throw all the quarterbacks into a hat, right? And let's say week 6, whoever they're playing, don't matter. All 6 rookies are all 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So no, 4. There's 4, 5, something like that. Let's just say 5. Ritter, Willis, Corral, Pickett, and Howell. Heck, I don't care if you throw Zappy in there. Those guys are starting week 6 for some unbeknownst reason. Which guy do you feel most comfortable plugging into your starting lineup?
That's tough. I honestly, and this might be a surprise, I like Ritter as a dark horse.
Okay.
I like Desmond Ridder with his arm strength, his versatility. He's got good legs. He can run. He's quick, and he can launch the ball. And I think
And they'll be playing from behind.
Oh yeah. So he will be slinging it. That's for sure. And they didn't pick up. I mean, they got Alec Pierce for a running back to kind of run alongside Damian Williams, but needless to say, they're going to be running the ball a lot. They're not going to be relying on those running backs. And I think of all the I think he's just as good as any as far as potential goes if he were to just be thrown in with the starting lineup. Now, if you want to consider the weapons, I think, honestly, Kenny Pickett has kind of set up for success if he were to just be thrown in there. He's got all the Freiermuth, Johnson. I mean, he's got all the options, and Najee Harris behind him to run. So I would say they'd be right there.
I think, and this is not just Homer talking, I think the safest option is Malik Willis, and here's why. He could come out and complete 10 passes out of 25 attempts for a touchdown and an interception. But if he has 105 yards and 2 rushing touchdowns, he's going to be a QB1 that week. It's the Jalen Hurts effect from last year or when he stepped in as a rookie.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
of the rushing upside. I'm not saying for my NFL team, who do I want to step in? But for my fantasy team,
for that week, who's got the most upside? You are probably exactly right with Willis, because if he ain't comfortable throwing it, he can make something happen when running the ball.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's definitely a possibility. I wouldn't rule that out at all.
Half point for first down in some leagues. I mean, he's going to run for those first downs. I like your answer of Ridder just because he has that rushing upside too. Mm-hmm. So I mean, most rookie quarterbacks, when they get in the game, they are going to run the ball a little bit, but Willis has that next level speed and can really take off. I don't know what he's going to be as a quarterback yet. I'm not even trying to argue that, but if I have to put a guy in, I feel pretty confident about Willis, although I don't think he'll start this year. Here's a fun fact for you. Malik Willis will not start more than one game this season unless injury. So if we're taking injury out, he will not start a game this season. But he will have 3 touchdowns because I think they're going to use him in a red zone package. Read option with Derrick Henry. It's worked pretty well for Ryan Tannehill, and you get to save him that hit. I think that's part of the reason they drafted him in the 3rd round. I think they can put him in a package, let him run in the red zone, kind of like what San Francisco did with Trey Lance at times last year. Interesting to keep an eye on.
For sure. Definitely be an option to switch it up. Be like a Taysom Hill kind of thing.
Yep. Possible. Okay. We're going to talk. Let's see. Who's another guy I want to talk about? I'm just like looking at a draft. Jalen Tolbert's a fun talking point right now.
Mm-hmm.
Because who's going to be that second guy after CeeDee Lamb? Nobody right now because everybody's banged up. Right now it's Simi Fehoko in practices who's getting talked about because everybody else either has a hamstring or an ankle or a walking boot. Talking to you, James Washington. But Gallup's out. Washington is there. Jalen Tolbert was one of the most pro-ready guys coming into this draft. Don't know what his overall upside is, but could we see Tolbert early in the season gain some dynasty value?
I think it's a possibility. Dallas has a high-powered offense. They're throwing the ball a lot, just as much as they're running it, and Dak Prescott really loves to throw. With Amari Cooper gone, somebody's got to step up. And really, aside from CeeDee Lamb, there is nobody that's cemented themselves in any specific role in that offense besides Dalton Schultz. But even him, I think there's still room for somebody else to hop in and even, slide right up behind CeeDee Lamb. So it's got all opportunity, man. It's there.
What's interesting is last year, the game script was not great for receivers last year in that offense because they got up in games. Their strength of schedule was really pretty easy last year for Dallas, right? It's the opposite. They were the number 1 seed in their division, and now they have one of the toughest strength of schedules. I think they're going to be throwing the ball a ton like they were in week 1 last year against Tampa Bay. It's crazy they opened week 1 again, I think, this year against Tampa Bay. So I think they're going to be throwing the ball a ton, and somebody's going to have to step up, like you said. So I've heard people say, oh, they're going to split Pollard out. They've been saying that for years. So I'll believe it when I see it. I'm not going to draft Pollard this year. I'm not going to do it. I thought the breakout was coming every year. Yes, he has standalone value. But before, when you could get him in the 13th, 12th round, now you got to, in redraft, you got to draft him in the 7th, 8th, 9th, somewhere in that range. I'm out like shout. All right. Yep. There's not a ton of tight ends to talk about in this draft. Do you have any sleeper tight ends, or we can just skip over it?
I like Dulcich.
Okay. Let's hear it.
He was one that was also in my article on guys that actually performed really well at the combine. He was top few of all the tight ends that performed in about every exercise or challenge that they did, and he's a really good, really great pass catcher, and he don't miss a beat, man. And he just looked really smooth out there catching or receiving when quarterbacks were tossing to him. He's pretty quick. I don't believe he's very big, but interesting landing spot again with Russell Wilson. Albert O is the only other tight end who's really unproven himself. So as far as you want opportunity, offseason goes well, I wouldn't put it past him to catch a few. I'm not going to say he's going to be fantasy relevant, but definitely makes for an interesting pick. If he can prove himself recently in year one, who's to say he doesn't get a bigger role in the future?
The thing about Dulcich is, we'll touch on him real quick. He's 6'4", like 240 something, 6'4", 240 something. So he's got some size, but he's not like overpowering. He ran a 4.7, and I think his vertical was like ridiculous when he was at the draft or the combine. But Albert O's not proven yet, and Albert O's gotten banged up. So I think he might be onto something there. And the thing about Dulcich is he's one of these tight ends that if he gets in early, he's going to be an easy flip for you if you want to flip for value, because you're getting him in the end of 4th rounds of your rookie drafts. So Jelani Woods is interesting to me. They got trees over there at Indianapolis, just jump ball magnets. When you look at that roster, and Jelani Woods, I think he was a former quarterback, if I'm not mistaken, but he's like 6'7" or something silly?
6'7", 253.
Yeah. 4'6", 140. There it is. Just an absolute tree. And if they've been trying to make Mo Alley Cox a red zone target for a while now, and I just don't think he's going to be, Jelani Woods could fit into that role, especially in the red zone opposite. Michael Pittman is a taller guy. Obviously Pierce, they drafted as a taller guy. They just went and looked at the combine. I was like, you're fast and you're big. Let's sign you up. And that was Alec Pierce and Jelani Woods. I think he is one of the tight ends that Trey McBride was definitely the better prospect, but in terms of landing spot, I liked Woods better because I don't think McBride is unseating Ertz, at least not this year.
Right.
Ertz has sneaky standalone value in a flex even this year, early in the year, with Hopkins out. I mean, you look at what he did down the stretch; it was absurd.
Absolutely. I mean, you even hit another interesting one there with Alec Pierce.
Yeah, Alec Pierce, good segue. Go for it.
Possible wide receiver 2 for the Colts, who also have another open wide receiving core behind Michael Pittman. I don't even know what T.Y. Hilton's contract is. He even still signed?
He's not there now.
I don't even know. Okay,
but he does have to fight Paris Campbell.
Paris Campbell is Michael Sicoli, the famous Michael Sicoli on Twitter. Is big on Paris Campbell this year.
Ashton Doolin's still there.
I mean,
Pro Bowler Ashton Doolin. Put some respect on his name.
Fair enough. But just interesting. I think he was on Sleeper anyways with some of the summaries from OTAs and things like that. People are saying that he's very well possibly could get into starting reps early on into the season. So another interesting target with a fresh QB in this offense to really kind of revamp things. Interesting target to pick up in the mid-second round.
Alec Pierce is a very interesting athletic profile. when I watched his film, I remember thinking he was a little stiff. I'll be interested to see if he can, turn into anything other than a deep shot when he gets into the NFL and gets some work with those coaches. One thing I will say, and you mentioned Ritter earlier, Ritter might be one of the best leader of men in this draft. But when I was watching Alec Pierce and I was watching the every snap, I mentioned Dynasty Nerds earlier, no free shout outs, but I like their prospect film room. Everything's just organized. You can go in there and see it. When I was watching Alec Pierce, you see every play, he plays hard every play, but he didn't have a bunch of catchable targets every play. And he got missed wide and he had some good numbers. So it's almost one of those, it's hard to evaluate from that standpoint of like, was he winning consistently? Was the timing just off of the quarterback? What was the situation there? And they also didn't play as tough as competition. So interesting player there. I will say that I saw him drafted ahead of Jahan Dotson in a draft of mine, which was really interesting.
Dotson's in the same kind of situation over in Washington. So
Yep.
Very similar opportunity.
I feel like everybody's just forgot about Curtis Samuel so quick. And I traded I traded away Pierce and Samuel today, which is kind of sad.
I was surprised after you talked up Samuel the other day. You even got me looking in other leagues trying to get Samuel on the cheap as a add-in to the trade or something.
That was one of those, but I got value out of Samuel, which was interesting.
Yeah, for sure.
For where I drafted him at. That was one of those things where I gave up a guy to get a guy. One of my guys. Gainwell's one of my guys. If you're from the Creator League and you're listening right now, Jacoby Myers is on the block. He was drafted in the 12th round. Let's just trade 12th rounders. Whoever you drafted in the 12th round, come after me.
Just swap it straight up.
Straight up. Myers is interesting. Myers is just an unsexy player. He was a wide receiver 3 or borderline 2 last year, wide receiver 3, I think. It's just, I don't know.
Not one you want to rely on, that's for sure.
No, he's just
makes more interesting for like best ball leagues.
Yeah, right. Okay, so we'll move on before I just start breaking down my entire roster here. We definitely need to do a show with like 4 guys from the Creator League and just talk rosters. That'd be a lot of fun.
That'd be so much fun.
All right, let's talk late round guys, and we're about to wrap up here. Let's pick 1 or 2 late round guys. You can pick one per position if you want. I'm talking 4th, 5th rounds. I'm not going to pick an undrafted guy because I did a whole undrafted show, but I'll pick 2 guys that I have in the Creator League actually. That I also like while you get a minute to look. My first one is going to be Tyler Badie. My favorite nickname right now is it Badie or Badie? I don't know.
It's Badie.
Yeah, it looks like Badie though, so I like renaming.
2 Ds would be Badie.
Huh?
2 Ds would be Badie.
Yeah, I know. But I mean, down in the South, we just make whatever we want out of the.
That's right. However it looks, you just say it.
So I've been renaming him Tyler as a Badie. Or Badie, however you want to say it. I think he's got some interesting value this year. Getting him at the end of 4th rounds, we just want these rookie running backs to get opportunity. And he had a very high target share in college for running back. I think he's going to get that 3rd down role in Baltimore early. I don't know what that's going to equate to because you got Lamar Jackson, who's not going to dump off the ball very often. But I like a running back in that scheme, especially because J.K. Dobbins, is he running? Is he not? I've seen videos within their stand at practice. He's just standing, catching balls. Gus Edwards, the Gus bus, I've been a fan, but he's coming back from a significant injury and wasn't a big part of his game. I like Tyler Badie from the standpoint of he can instantly get a role. He's going to have he has the opportunity to have the same role as James Cook, literally the same role, mobile quarterback, 3rd down back, a guy that caught passes. Oh, and by the way, Tyler Badie had more catches in college than James Cook did. Just throw that one out there. He had more, I think I was looking the other day, he had more 5-catch games. Like he had 10 5-catch games and James Cook had 3 in his career. They're literally going to walk into a similar situation, similar role. And Badie's being drafted at the end of the 4th or in the 5th round in rookie drafts. In redraft, he's not being drafted at all. And I'm not saying he's the same level athlete, but I find that interesting. So that's my first guy. I'll let you, if you want to talk about him, and then I'll let you pick one before I go to my last.
Yeah, he's in a situation in Baltimore where they love their running backs, man, and they are more than willing to throw one out there and let him work once in a while, see what he can do with it. And if he takes off with it, they're not afraid to give him a bigger role. They love their running backs.
If you're listening right now and you're like, this guy's an idiot, Tyler Badie's going to be nothing. Okay. Did you think Tyson Williams or Devontae Freeman were going to be something last year? Because you're probably the same guy that picked him up off waivers in your redraft league. Badie's got more talent at this point than both of those guys. Sorry, mini ran over. Or tell me I'm an idiot. Either way, I don't care.
Well, like I say, man, the opportunities there wouldn't rely on first-year production, but man, after last year, was it like a week apart or even less that J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards both went down, man.
And Marcus Peters got hurt in the same practice as I think Gus Edwards.
Yeah, it was like the next play. It was wild. They stopped practice right there. So anything can happen. Not relying on him to come out and produce you weekly numbers every week, but he's definitely a flyer in the late rounds that's worth a pickup and could prove to be worthy later on.
Yep, absolutely. All right, who's one of your late round guys, man?
Probably somebody that's, I don't know if he's even, you might know better than me. He's been kind of everywhere for me. Sometimes he might go in like the 3rd round, sometimes he might not go to later rounds, but I think Justyn Ross makes an interesting rookie wide receiver playing for the Kansas City Chiefs, a high-powered offense, again, with an open wide receiver room, all new wide receivers where nobody's really cemented themselves. McCole Hardman's there, but he's pretty well accepted his role player position.
Yeah.
And, what he does within the offense, and I don't see him going out and outshining anybody. So top elite prospect before his injury. So there's concern there, obviously, but massive upside if things were to go right. And I think I was actually watching your podcast a couple weeks ago where you were talking about him, and
Peter Howard's a big fan.
I would have to agree that I don't think he would be playing if they thought that it was going to be, just your average play that could put him out of commission. I feel like that would definitely be a call for quitting football or any kind of contact sports. Of course, he's more likely, but again, the clearance, I think if he can bring that elite talent and shed off that injury, this guy could be the limit. That could be a steal of a pick.
32 teams passed on him at least 4 times. And then he sat in the undrafted free agent market for 2 days. Now, what we don't know is, did he sit there because he was looking for something, a right situation, or was he just looking for an opportunity? We don't know that. But I tend to think that it is not one of those two. I tend to think it's still just somebody trying to talk through the medicals. I just don't know, man. I will not be acquiring him. I see the reasoning for why. I get it. I just don't. I got torched in one of my home leagues, one of my favorite leagues, does a show that's a podcast. It's on YouTube, but it's literally just over our league. It's just to talk about our league. It's a 10-man league. Mm-hmm. And I got torched for going on there and saying that Justyn Ross has the same likelihood of ending up paralyzed as he does in a Pro Bowler. Like the percentages are probably the same. And that just scares the crap out of me, man. I don't know. I think
no, I'm not picking him up in every league. I think I'm kind of, a lot of times I'm more or less like, probably a little too early. And by the time I would have even considered him again, somebody else would pick him up. And at that point, I'm just kind of like, let him go for that. There's a lot of competition that he's got to go through to get,
on the roster.
That upside. So just a big chance, but the elite raw talent is there. If it works out, it's going to pay off, but it could be more of a long shot.
Peter Howard drafted him in the 3rd round, which is wow. Okay, but hey, he's been right more than he's been wrong, I'd say, in his career playing fantasy football. So maybe I'm just dead wrong. I loved him as a freshman. I thought he had, really good skills. Was a very highly recruited player. Did not look the same after the injury. Also didn't have Trevor Lawrence throwing the ball, so maybe that's the reason why. But he's an interesting player nonetheless. I'm actually going to wrap us up right there, man. I think we've hit on a lot of players. I've had a blast talking these guys. Axon, tell us one more time. Give us your Twitter handle. I'll have it right under your name up there, but also where they can find your work, man.
Hey, I write articles, as you mentioned at the start. I write articles for the IDP guys. Go check out the website at theidpguys.org. All sorts of fun content. People can subscribe and get into our Discord channel, and we'll answer any and all questions 24/7. My Twitter, you can find me on Twitter at Harding_3. Very simple. So feel free to give me a shout and follow me. And if you like what you see, let me know. Let me hear it.
Hey,
I'm always willing to chat.
You're one of my favorite followers on Twitter, and he's always either retweeting guys that you're like, oh, I need to follow that guy. I didn't know who that was, or like the stuff you're sharing is awesome. So, man, I really just appreciate being in the league with you and you hopping on the show, man. It's been a blast. Call your shot real quick. Are you going to be one of those top 4 teams this year in the Creator League?
I got a bad feeling I'm probably going to fall just short. But I went for a lot of upside. So if things go right, I feel I could end up in the top 4. I went big with Tua and Carr in the 3rd round, both kind of lower drafting prospects, but I felt like they had the most upside of all the QBs that were available at the time. And I felt like they were both in excellent situations. So not a lot of people are too high on them, but like I say, bunch of upside on my team. You went for a lot of surefire, they're going to get it kind of guys.
I definitely have the oldest average age on my team, I bet.
Dude, you got the most reliable team, the most reliable starting lineup, arguably, right now. So
you say that, but CH is my RB2 right now. Let's just.
Oh, is he really? Okay. Overall, man, when you're getting pretty deep into the the flex players and things like that. But overall, you're looking pretty solid. None of your guys have had awful leagues or awful seasons by any means.
It's so crazy fantasy football. I was in a league last year where my team we did the rate my league thing, and they were projected 2. They were really high on the redraft and dynasty aspect of it. But one thing that was not taken into account is on that team, I had Allen Robinson, who dropped an absolute dud last year. I had A.J. Brown, who got hurt. I had Michael Thomas, who didn't play. It's just like one thing after another, and things happen like that. So you never know. It's anyone's game any year. A guy who was projected to finish dead last in our league last year made the playoffs and was the 4 spot. What in the absolute heck? And it wasn't because of trades. It was just like, whoa. One thing I'll say about your team, Mark, you have who I think can be the wide receiver 1 this year in Justin Jefferson. I was really hoping he was going to fall to me, but I knew he wouldn't. And Mark Andrews, who could be the tight end 1 this year. So you got 2 guys that are at the top of their game, and you got some value guys all the way through the lineup, and you got Christian Watson and Romeo Dubes. You got them both. You're ready.
That's right. I got back up because I drafted Christian Watson, then I picked up Thielen, and I was like, well, I probably better get a guy who's pretty well established himself in the league, just in case Christian Watson don't pan out. Then later on, Dubes came up. I was like, well, we'll go ahead and add him too.
You can follow the Creator League and keep up with the Creator League if you want on Twitter. I think it's FF_Creator_League. If you want to find them, just follow one of our Twitter accounts or wherever you're tweeting them all the time. Come check it out. There's 3 divisions. Somebody pointed out the other day, they think it's like the Pokemon series because it was the yellow, red, and blue. So we're trying to level up to gold or silver next year. I don't know how we're going to do it, but super exciting thing led by Adam Kell. So appreciate him. We're going to hit the outro.
Thank you for listening. Follow For FF's Sake on all social media platforms and search for us wherever you get your podcasts.